Hello everybody and welcome to my channel, The Real Super Sam. Today is another top 5 stories video on my channel and I hope you enjoy. Happy Thanksgiving everyone. For this holiday I'm making a top 5 stories video on another Spider-Man rogue who was a member of the first Sinister Six. Kraven the Hunter, the world's greatest animal hunter ever, who only wants to fulfill his biggest challenge, defeat Spider-Man. Sergei Kravinoff is one of Spider-Man's least powerful villains, but he has some of the best Spider-Man stories, so today I'm going to list off his top 5 adventures. Number 5. The Thrill of the Hunt. A one-shot in Amazing Spider-Man issue 34, this is the best Kraven issue written by Stan Lee and Steve Ditko. This is Kraven's second appearance. Kraven has grown too tired and frustrated with not having the defeat of Spider-Man under his belt. He has trained and he is ready to return to America to face Spider-Man once again. To draw Spidey out, he dresses up as the web spinner and attacks Jameson to get attention. Him dressing as Spider-Man in his second appearance definitely reflects the iconic Kraven's Last Hunt. Kraven easily lures Spider-Man into an area where he has set up a bunch of traps. Now the hunt begins. Afterward, it's a big brawl battle between the two, with Kraven treating Spider-Man like a real animal, and Spidey just making some jokes. Something interesting in this issue is Kraven uses a potion to cancel Spider-Man's spider sense. There was a lot of good things about this issue. It had Kraven go to the Chameleon's hideout, his stepbrother, and he described how he got some powers from the herbs he drinks. The part of Kraven dressing up as like Spider-Man gives hint to Kraven's Last Hunt, if involuntary. The way Kraven is written here definitely makes him a remembered Spider-Man rogue. Number 4. Heart is a Lonely Hunter. Another one-shot. This issue is in Spectacular Spider-Man issue 65. Kraven can beat any common thug now. His only regret is Spider-Man. Spider-Man has always defeated him. Kraven is going back after Spider-Man to regain his honor. Without his honor, Kraven does not feel like Calypso can love him. This leads to Spider-Man running into a bunch of traps on the rooftop set up by Kraven the Hunter. It turns into a typical Spider-Man vs. Kraven brawl with web shooting and handheld weapons all around. An interesting thing is Calypso is playing a drum that distracts Spider-Man while fighting. But you guessed it, Spider-Man in the end prevails and beats Kraven. Calypso sees this and shoots Spider-Man with the poison dart. This severely weakens Spider-Man and Kraven beats him easily after it. Kraven the Hunter wonders why Spider-Man has seemingly given up. Then, he sees the dart Calypso hit Spidey with. Because Calypso did that, there is no honor or pride Kraven can get from this defeat of Spider-Man, so he stops fighting. But drugged, Spider-Man stumbles off a building and is about to die, so Kraven actually saves Spider-Man's life. Kraven wants to fight Spider-Man again, and at full strength, so he can have a meaningful hunt, and more importantly, a meaningful victory. Calypso at the end tries to kill Spidey, but Kraven, using his lightning-fast reflexes, saves all Webhead from her attack. This is easily one of the greatest Kraven stories that few talk about. It has Kraven at his prime, and has his girlfriend Calypso too. This story definitely describes what Kraven is all about. Kraven tracking down Spider-Man using detective skills is always interesting to see. At the end, Kraven peacefully surrenders himself to the police, having no reason to argue with the New York police, and no reason to continue fighting Spider-Man. What Spider-Man said at the end, "Maybe there's more to the Hunter than I ever thought," definitely shows what I assume many were thinking after reading this issue. If someone said this was their favorite Kraven story, I would not argue with them. Number 3. Kraven's First Hunt. Sensational Spider-Man Annual 1 describes more in detail the events of Amazing Spider-Man issue 15, and it is a really interesting story. Keep in mind, this was written after Kraven's Last Hunt. One of the greatest things about this issue is that it looks inside the mind of Kraven the Hunter and two other characters involved in the story, like in the story Kraven's Last Hunt. The other rogue is focused on is the Chameleon, who has a big role in the story because he is Kraven's stepbrother. The whole story focuses is how Chameleon is using Kraven and Spider-Man for his own personal gain, and Spider-Man is written great here. I love looking into his mind from back at the start of his career. Right now, he is loving being Spider-Man when he is out fighting crime. When Kraven's training, it gets off some Kraven's Last Hunt vibes, with him almost bathing in actual spiders, understanding his prey. Then it jumps right to the scene that happens in issue 15, with Kraven stopping escaped animals, except it's revealed he planned for the cages to snap open so he could show off his strength. One thing that makes this issue unique is that it is the story that tells the most about the two stepbrothers, Kraven and Chameleon. Very few times is Chameleon without his mask, and here we see he is old, ugly, and bald underneath, less than a nobody compared to Kraven. It hints at Chameleon's dad, who was being abusive to him. The time soon comes for the first battle between Kraven the Hunter and Spider-Man. Spider-Man treats this as fun and games, a little joke, but Kraven the Hunter sees this as his ultimate battle. Spider-Man eventually beats him and scares the dickens out of Sergey. Afterwards, there is a great scene where Kraven is scared of Spider-Man, and his warped mind twists his thoughts into blaming everything bad in his life is because of Spider-Man. It's revealed here that his mom was also abused, and he once locked in a room full of spiders. This, among other things, led her to suicide. At the end, as Spider-Man webs up Chameleon, the Chameleon secretly admits to himself he didn't bring Sergey here to kill Spider-Man, but the opposite. He wants Kraven gone. Spider-Man easily turns Kraven into the Hunted and captures him after that. This shows us the rivalry with Spider-Man and Kraven has always been the same in each other's minds for decades, only Spider-Man's really changes. I love how we see the history of Kraven's life come into play as he confronts his greatest enemy for the first time. This story combined with new elements in the Kraven's First Hunt from issue 15 perfectly. Between Kraven, Spider-Man, and Chameleon, it makes me want to go back and read all about the two rogues of this story all over again. Number 2. Grim Hunt. Published in Amazing Spider-Man issues 634 through 637, this could be called the sequel to the story, Kraven's Last Hunt. The prequel to this is the 5 volumes of the Gauntlet, Spider-Man facing all of his classic rogues after they got major power upgrades and darker motives. Now the hunt begins. Kraven's wife, Sasha, and the whole Kraven family is now hunting spider-powered people like Spider-Woman and Madam Web, etc. So with their blood, and with the Chameleon's help, they bring Kraven the Hunter back to life. He has another half-brother, not just Chameleon, who is a mutant, Alosha Kravinoff, who is in this story. A lot happens, including a good moment with Kane, Spider-Man's deadly clone, but of course in the end, they succeed in bringing Kraven back to life. He is shown to now be explosively a psychopath and cold towards his family, beating his son and daughter and expressing little attention towards his wife. Obviously, Kraven is not himself anymore, and there is a good reason for that. First off, it wasn't the real Spider-Man they sacrificed, but Kane, and Kraven knows that. Kane knocked out and buried Peter Parker. He gets out and goes to the Kraven mansion. Not only that, but Peter Parker goes to Kraven back in black. Sergey has always been about honor, respect, and his family has thrown that all away without him. Finally, the two meet face to face once again. Spider-Man is about to kill Kraven because of what his family has done, but he doesn't, going above all the darkness this Kraven family has caused. Kraven reveals that he cannot die unless Spider-Man kills him. After that night, Kraven kills one of his sons and his wife. At the end, Kraven leaves with his daughter to the Savage Land. Kraven states that Sasha, his wife, restored him with corrupted blood which he calls unlife, which is how Kraven is alive and won't die unless Spidey kills him. Then, he and his daughter Anna discuss the rebirth of the Kraven family. The story requires knowledge of the many different characters who are related to Spider-Man in some way. There's rather a heavy amount of continuity to be found in Grim Hunt. The story shows Spider-Man pushed to the edge, but he never gives in to what Kraven would have done or what Kraven wanted. Spider-Man is a hero, no matter how hard things get. I love how my favorite Spider-Man villain, Mysterio, is in this story for a cameo. Grim Hunt shows an aftermath of Kraven's Last Hunt, which was perfect. It was a dark Spider-Man tale that was unique at the time, and Kraven returning to comics was insane to see happen for Spider-Man. The writing is very sharp, and the characters seem to have an outsider's look into what's happening, how this will affect the Kraven family moving forward. Number 1. Kraven's Last Hunt. This was always going to be number one. It is one of the greatest Spider-Man stories ever told, written across Web of Spider-Man issues 31 and 32, Amazing Spider-Man 293 and 294, and in Spectacular Spider-Man issues 131 and 132, Kraven's Last Hunt finally shows Kraven triumphant. It shows normally with a Kraven vs. Spider-Man fight, but something is different. We've seen that something is wrong or just unnormal with Kraven and Spider-Man tonight. Not only is Kraven using drugs to help him, but also using a rifle to capture Spider-Man. Something is off tonight. Kraven has done it. He has defeated Spider-Man, his greatest capture yet. His life is completed. Kraven then decides to take up the mantle of his archenemy, Spider-Man. Kraven is acting more spider than man now. That's when we're introduced to the villain, Vermin. I have an entire video on Vermin if you guys want to read more about him in this story. We see Mary Jane then walking alone at night as some punks attack her. Kraven, dressed as Spider-Man, comes to her rescue, and she soon realizes that isn't Peter Parker behind the mask. Eventually, Spider-Man crawls out of the grave. Miraculously, amazingly, Kraven did not kill him. Peter has been in that grave for 2 weeks, and he finds out Kraven has been running around as him during that time. Spider-Man goes after Kraven for revenge on what he's been doing. Spider-Man unleashes hell on Earth on Kraven's face. Kraven just stands there, not fighting back. Kraven views Spider-Man as the demon that took his mother. Kraven is done hunting Spider-Man now. He has beaten him, replaced him, and in his mind has become the superior Spider-Man. After explaining himself to Spider-Man, he changes clothes and leads Spidey downstairs to a captured Vermin. He lets Vermin out, saying that this is a finale. Spider-Man says he's not going to fight with Vermin against Kraven. After everything, Spider-Man loses the Vermin, and Kraven watches this. Spider-Man went easy on Vermin, not wanting to kill him. Kraven, watching this, after everything Spider-Man has been through, after everything Vermin is, he still won't become a murderer. He's too good and too sane for that. After letting Spider-Man live and Vermin go, Kraven helps Spider-Man. After tonight, Spider-Man is no concern of his. Kraven comes to the conclusion that the spider he views as the demon that consumed his mom is gone. What's left is a good man. Being content with himself, thinking that he has claimed his greatest goal, brought honor to his family. After tonight, no more Kraven the Hunter. His life is over, so he decides to commit suicide. The greatest of this story is just emphasized thanks to the Spider-Man being in the black suit. It makes the story darker and more brutal and serious. Obviously, number one, this story turned Kraven into an A-list Spider-Man rogue. It made him more interesting and dangerous. It made Spider-Man seem more human, and Kraven made Spider-Man vulnerable. Kraven did beat Spider-Man. I believe he is right. He could have killed Spider-Man, but didn't. I love how Kraven becomes Spider-Man, but in his black suit. I view this more as he is a new, darker, better version of Spider-Man, so he doesn't wear red. Or maybe it is just because Spider-Man was in his black suit when he killed him. A big thing between the two in the story is fearful symmetry. The writing and pacing and art in this story all clicks to tell a horror story with the 3 characters, Spider-Man, Kraven, and Vermin. This story has Spider-Man at one of his lowest lows and Kraven at the height of his career. This story was sort of a breath of fresh air in the Spider-Man comics, and that's why it has been remembered as the greatest Kraven story of all time. So those were the top 5 Kraven stories. Thanks for watching. Kraven definitely deserves more love, and I personally am excited to see the results of him being in a movie. Kraven has always been a bit of a loser rogue, but the potential for him, as we have seen in this countdown, has always been there. With that said, thank you all for watching. Have a good Thanksgiving. Please subscribe. It's insane how much I've grown over this week. Thank you to everybody. Comment your thoughts down below. Bye guys, and have a good day.